Alright, you guys, hey, welcome back. So today I have a video for you guys about discouragement, disappointment, disillusionment, and wrestling with God. I must say I feel a little bit excited to film this video because I am intimately familiar with wrestling with God. It's like kind of like my whole deal. It's kind of like my whole story. You get what I'm saying? So I have this book because or you may know, I've mentioned it before, but this book is kind of like my content book. I brainstorm here, I like map out, not necessarily create a script, but I create sort of a format for my videos so that I don't just go completely off track and just ramble and like kind of forget like the main points, and especially the main scriptural references that I want to make throughout the video. You understand me? I remember when I first was coming to Christ, and like when I first came into the faith, I was like, what is all this about suffering? Like it just seemed like suffering, is there anything else? Like I remember I felt like that was kind of like a deal breaker for me. Like you feel like you're doing the right thing, you feel like you're making the right choice by coming to Christ, so why do we have to suffer at the same time? Sometimes it still feels like I'm being punished for doing the right thing. Like I'm supposed to come to Christ, I'm supposed to give my life to Christ, I'm supposed to get baptized, and I'm supposed to be saved, and then when I be saved I have to suffer. Like I always kind of felt cheated because I'm like, why am I being punished for doing what you asked me to do? As best as we can, we have to try to be at peace with suffering, because we have scriptures like, in this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. We have scriptures like, we will mourn while they will rejoice. One of the major assurances that we have is that we're going to have trouble in the world. Like we're not gonna escape suffering, we're not gonna escape struggling. We may as well just accept it for what it is. You get what I'm saying? So I want to talk about those times when our suffering and our struggling makes us angry and makes us resentful. Like, is it possible for our suffering and our struggling to make us literally start to resent God? Yes. How do I know? Because it's happened to me. It's happened to me, in fact, on several occasions. And we even see where it's happened to people in scripture. Like, you can struggle so much where you get to a point that you're literally angry with God. This is what Job says. He says, but you have become cruel to me. With the strength of your hand, you oppose me. You lift me up to the wind and cause me to ride on it. You spoil my success. Jeremiah said, why is my pain perpetual and my wound incurable, which refuses to be healed? Will you surely be to me like an unreliable stream, as waters that fail? This is what Jeremiah said to God, because he was so tired and so discouraged and so disappointed in the fact that he was constantly struggling. I know that I have heard people say, oh, you're not supposed to question God. As much as we have been conditioned to just say, oh, yes, Lord, sir, yes, sir, and don't ask any questions. It's actually my personal belief that wrestling with God is evidence of our faith. Now, that is an unpopular opinion, and that's why I'm going to say it's my personal belief. For the most part, in my personal wrestlings that I've had with God, I feel like it's an evidence of faith. Like if you guys recall the story of when Elisha blessed the Shunammite woman and told her that she was going to have a son, and then later on in 2 Kings the son died, and the Shunammite woman got on her horse and went back to Elisha. I feel like if the Shunammite woman didn't believe that Elisha was able, through the power of God, to revive her son, she would not have gone back to him. Same way, I feel like if Job did not believe in the righteous character of God, then he wouldn't have protested when he felt like God was treating him unfairly. Think about it this way. If somebody that we know is evil keeps doing evil things to us, is that going to be like surprising? Is that going to be like a huge deal? No, it's more surprising if somebody that we believe to be good turns around and does evil. And I feel like it's the same way when we wrestle with God. We believe that he's good and we believe that he does good things. So when we feel like he's not doing good things to us, we protest, we wrestle, we struggle with him. I feel like it's evidence that we believe that he is good. A wrestle doesn't necessarily have to be like in anger. Sometimes a wrestle can be out of brokenness. Like remember Hannah, she was so sad because she didn't have any children, and she just kept pleading with God, like not out of a place of like rebellion. Like a lot of people say that as righteous as Job was, he was a little bit rebellious against God in some of the things that he said. But when we think about Hannah, Hannah wasn't rebellious, Hannah wasn't angry, she was literally just broken, and she continued to plead with God. She continued to ask him, please, like, even though it seemed like she was never gonna have children, even though she didn't yet have the answer to her prayer, and even though I forget what the woman's name is that was also married to her husband, and she would make fun of her because she had had children, but Hannah continued to humbly plead with the Lord in prayer, even though her prayers weren't yet answered. Sometimes that is our struggle with God. Sometimes that is how we wrestle with God, continuing to press into prayer and continuing to plead with him in prayer, even though it looks like he hasn't answered all the prayers that we have already prayed, but we're fighting and we're pressing and we're pleading because we believe that there are treasures to be found in him. I bring up that example because I really want to make that point that wrestling does not have to be out of a place of anger. Wrestling can just be pressing past what appears to be an unmet need and pressing past what appears to be an unanswered prayer, because you believe that God not only has the ability to answer, but is going to answer. I know that if there was somebody that I felt sure that they would do what I was asking them to do, that would make me want to ask them even more. You get what I'm saying? And I feel like it's the same way with God. If we continue to press him, and if we continue to plead with him, and if we continue to seek him, I do believe that even if it's from a place of anger, even if it's from a place of resentment, when we keep showing up, because like Job's story was so rich in emotions. Like, he had so many feelings. Like, he was like, where is God? I wish I could come before him. I wish I could get to talk to him. I wish I could get to plead my cause, because I feel like he's not treating me fairly. So Job at some points felt forsaken. Job at some points felt angry. He was angry with God, and he felt cheated by God. He felt like he was being punished for the good that he was doing with his life by serving God and by praising God and other things. But he wrestled with God because he believed that despite all of what his situation was showing him, that God was righteous. I'm sure that the devil was trying to convince him that, see, God doesn't care about you. God is rewarding you evil for the good that you have done, such and such and such. And I know that he was probably doing that to Job because he does that to me. Job believed in the righteous character of God. If he didn't, he wouldn't have protested so violently when he felt like God was treating him unfairly. That's kind of the point that I'm trying to make. Like, we can wrestle with God to a point where we even like forget to reverence him, and we even forget to fear him despite our anger. But I think a lot of our wrestling with God comes from like, God, I believe that you can do a good thing. Are you going to? Type deal. If I can just speak for myself for a minute here, I've had a thorn in my flesh for years. I've had thorns, plural, in my flesh for years. And I've been praying, like Paul, repeatedly for healing and for freedom and for deliverance from those thorns for years. And it has come to a point now where I wrestle with God. I wrestle with him sometimes from a place of anger. I wrestle with him sometimes from a place of resentment. I wrestle with him sometimes from a place of feeling forsaken. But I wrestle because I believe that he is good and that he is going to do good things for me, like the word says. I want us to consider Jacob and Job and Hannah and Jeremiah. Remember all those people who I believe wrestled with God in the scripture. When they perceived that God was behaving unlike his own just and righteous character, they persisted in prayer and they struggled with him in that place of prayer. There's a way that you can pray and struggle with God. There's a way that you can pray and wrestle with God because you believe that your experience is not consistent with his own character. Sometimes the truth feels like it doesn't take into account what we're experiencing, but the truth is that God is never cruel. I can't say that I don't ever feel like God is being cruel, but the truth is that it's not in God's nature to be cruel. In reality, God is just in all of his ways, even though so many times we can't comprehend them. And that is because the scripture talks about how like his ways are higher than our ways and his thoughts are higher than our thoughts. And so we don't always understand what he does, but the reality is that he's never like cruel. He's never mean. He's never evil. He's never trying to hurt us. He's never trying to wound us. He's never trying to just make us have a bad time. You get what I'm saying? And I think that the Lord knows that sometimes we do feel forsaken, and I think that the Lord knows that sometimes we do feel that he's being cruel, and I think that's why he tells us in the word that all things work together for the good of us who love him and are called according to his purpose. I feel like when we wrestle with God, we're actually confessing that we believe that there are riches in him that we don't yet see. So if you're like me, if you have a thorn or thorns in your flesh, I want us to consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared to the glory that is going to be revealed in us. Let us call this to mind and therefore have hope. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is his faithfulness. The Lord is our portion, says our soul. Therefore, we will hope in him. If you are like me and you're constantly wrestling with God, if you're constantly struggling with where faith and suffering collide, then I want you to, like Jacob, I want us to, like Jacob, not let God go until he blesses us. So I feel I'm very passionate about this video because, like I said, I'm intimately familiar with the act of wrestling and suffering and struggling with God. I think there is so much to be said for that little piece of scripture where Jacob wrestles with God and he says, no, I'm not gonna let you go until you bless me. And of course, it's not just about being blessed, but as Christians, as much suffering as there is and as much pain as there is, we need a reminder that there are blessings too. We need a reminder that there's favor too, and there's joy too, and that eyes have not heard, and that eyes have not seen and ears have not heard, or it hasn't entered into the mind of men what God has prepared. Like, yes, there's pain, and yes, there's agony, and it can seriously feel like there's more of that than anything else. And I feel like sometimes we become discouraged by that, but we have to remember that there are literal treasures to be found in God. We have to remember that when it comes to our walk with Jesus Christ, the good outweighs the bad. It can seem like the bad outweighs the good, but that's actually a lie. And we have to know how to press. We have to know how to wrestle. Whatever we're feeling, we just have to be able to keep pleading with God and not letting disillusionment or discouragement or disappointment cause us to let our faith go. We're never letting go, guys. Let's never let go. But let's just be like Jacob and say, actually, I'm not gonna let go until you bless me, because I believe that blessings are available in you. So I hope that this video is good for somebody. It's good for me. It's encouraging my own heart. And I hope you guys enjoy. And if you do, like and comment, share and subscribe and all that good stuff. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.